Cole leaned back in his chair and took another long drink. The bar smelled like cheap alcohol and old metal, exactly the kind of place he liked. Nobody asked questions here. Nobody cared about your past. The station orbiting Haven's Edge attracted his kind of people. "So there I was," said, waving his glass at the two men across from him. "Standing in this research outpost in the middle of nowhere. These two scientists thought they were so smart." Grinned and poured himself another drink. "Let me guess, they tried to run." "Worse," said, "they tried to hide their data like I wouldn't find it." He laughed, a harsh sound that made the bartender look up briefly before going back to wiping glasses. "The woman something, she kept saying they had evidence, that people would come looking. I told her nobody cares about illegal mining operations out here. Not enough to die for." Greg leaned forward. "What about the contract? Clean." "Simple job," said. "The Obsidian Collective wanted them gone. They discovered something at the old alien ruins, something that would have shut down the whole mining operation. Cost billions. My employer paid well for silence." He finished his drink and signaled for another. The memory played in his mind like a favorite recording. 15 years had passed, but he remembered every detail. The outpost had been small. Just 3 buildings made of prefab material, sitting near a cliff face covered in ancient alien carvings. And Brooks had been there for 2 years, studying the ruins. They had found proof that the mining company was destroying protected heritage sites. Had arrived at night with and Greg. The couple had seen them coming on their sensors. When kicked in the door, the main room was empty. "Come out," Had called. "This doesn't have to be difficult." Brooks had stepped out from the back room, hands raised. He was a thin man with hair and scared eyes. "We sent the data already," he had said. "Killing us won't change anything." Had smiled at the obvious lie. "Your communications array has been down for 3 days. We made sure of that." Had appeared then, moving to stand beside her husband. She was younger, with dark hair pulled back in a tie. Her hands shook, but her voice stayed steady. "We have a daughter. She's only 8 years old, please." "Where is she?" Had asked. "Not here," Had said quickly. "She's with family on the main colony." Another lie, could always tell. He nodded to who moved to search the back rooms. Greg covered the couple with his weapon. "Listen," Had said, stepping forward. "We'll delete everything. We'll leave Haven's Edge. You'll never hear from us again." "I know," Had said, and shot Brooks in the chest. Had screamed and dropped beside her husband, came back from the storage room and shook his head. No kid, but saw his eyes flick to a tall metal cabinet in the corner. "Please," Had begged, tears running down her face. "Please don't, she's just a baby. She hasn't done anything." "Tell me where the data is," Had said. "All of it, every copy." Had told him. She gave up 3 different locations, including a backup drive hidden in the floor. Had Greg retrieve it all while he kept his weapon pointed at her. "You got what you wanted," Had said. Her husband was dead on the floor beside her. "Please just go." Had looked at the metal cabinet again. He walked over and pulled it open. Inside, crammed between equipment boxes, a little girl with dark hair stared up at him. Her eyes were wide and wet with tears. She didn't make a sound. "Come out," Had said. The girl had climbed out slowly. She looked at her father's body and started to shake. "Go to the corner," Had told her. "Face the wall, don't turn around." Had walked to the corner like a small robot. Had watched her go, then looked back at. "Thank you," she had whispered. "Don't thank me yet," Had said, and pulled the trigger. Had flinched at the sound but didn't turn around. She stood there, facing the wall, while and his team collected the research materials. They downloaded everything from the computers and then set charges to burn the outpost. Before they left, Had walked over to the girl. She still faced the wall, trembling. "Your parents died begging," he had said quietly. "Remember that." Then they had left. The outpost burned behind them. The contract didn't include children and followed contracts exactly. That was what made him professional. Now, sitting in the bar 15 years later, finished telling the story. And Greg nodded appreciatively. "Cold," said, "but clean." "Always," agreed. He felt good tonight. The job had paid well. The Obsidian Collective had been happy. He had built his reputation on jobs like that one. In the corner of the bar, a figure in a dark hood sat alone. They had been there for an hour, nursing one drink, listening. Noticed them now for the first time. Something about the way they sat made his instincts wake up. He had survived 25 years as a mercenary by trusting those instincts. "You see that?" he asked Greg quietly, nodding toward the corner. Greg glanced over. Some kid been there a while. The hooded figure stood up and walked toward the exit. They moved like someone trained, balanced, aware, watched them go, feeling an odd chill down his back. "Probably nothing," said. Nodded, but the uneasy feeling stayed with him. He shook it off and ordered another round. The hooded figure left the station that night. In the rescue records from 15 years ago, there was a note about a girl found at a burned research outpost. Brooks, age 8, sole survivor, parents deceased, taken into custody of Aunt Brooks, former colonial military. The note didn't mention what the girl had seen. It didn't mention what she remembered. It didn't mention the promise she had made to herself while standing in that corner, listening to her parents die. Went back to his hotel that night feeling tired. His disease was getting worse. He would need Brooks was 18 years old when she found the first real lead. 10 years had passed since the rescue team pulled her from the burned outpost. 10 years of waiting, planning, preparing. Her aunt sat across from her at the kitchen table. The apartment was small but clean. Morning light came through the windows. Wore her old military jacket, the one she always wore when she wanted to have a serious talk. "You're really going through with this," said. It wasn't a question. Nodded. She had her travel bag packed already. Everything she owned fit into one bag now. She traveled light, like a soldier, like her aunt had taught her. "I can't stop you," said quietly. "I know that. I've known for years." She looked at with sad eyes. "But I need you to understand something. Revenge won't bring them back. It won't fill the empty space inside you." "I know," said. And she did know. She wasn't stupid. She wasn't some kid chasing a fantasy. She had spent 10 years learning, training, becoming someone who could do what needed to be done. Had tried to help her heal at first. Therapy, counseling, normal kid stuff, but couldn't be normal. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw that metal cabinet. She heard her mother's last words. She felt Cole's cold eyes looking down at her. So had changed tactics. If was going to chase this, she would do it right. She would survive. The training had started when was 12. Basic fitness first. Running, strength training had been tough but fair. She pushed hard but never broke her. Hand-to-hand combat came next. Knew 7 different fighting styles from her military years. She taught all of them. Never rely on one approach, had said. Adapt, survive, win. Had practiced for hours every day. Her knuckles bled. Her muscles screamed. She kept going. Every punch was for her parents. Every kick was one step closer to Cole. When turned 15, taught her about weapons, firearms, knives, improvised tools. "A weapon is just a tool," had explained. "The real weapon is your mind." Learned to shoot with deadly accuracy. She learned where to cut to cause pain without killing. She learned how to turn anything into a weapon if needed. A pen, a belt, a piece of broken glass. But insisted on other skills too. "Strength isn't enough," she had said. "You need to think, to plan, to understand people." So learned computers, how to hack systems, how to track digital footprints across the galaxy. She was good at it, better than good. Information became her second language. She studied psychology, how people think, how they break, what makes someone talk, what makes someone loyal. She read everything she could find about interrogation, manipulation, and control. And she studied mercenaries, their culture, their codes, their networks. She learned how they operated, where they hid, who they trusted. She became an expert on the criminal underworld without ever entering it. Until now. Stood up from the table. "I have to go." Stood too. She pulled into a hard hug. "Be careful, be smart, and remember you can always come home." Nodded against her aunt's shoulder. Was the only family she had left. The only person who understood, but couldn't help her with this. This was something had to do alone. The transport to the outer colonies took 3 days. Used the time to review everything she knew about Greg. He had been one of his team that night. The one who had searched for her while she hid in the cabinet. Greg worked security now on a mining station called Outpost 7. He lived a quiet life, kept his head down, didn't talk much about his past. Had other information too. Greg liked to drink. He gambled on station games. He owed money to local criminals. He was weak. He would be easy to break. She arrived at Outpost 7 as the station's night shift began. The place was rough. Miners, traders, people who didn't ask questions. She fit right in. Had created a new identity. Amy Carter, young mercenary looking for work. She had false credentials, fake history, everything checked out. Had taught her well. She found Greg 3 days later in a gambling hall. He was older now, heavier. His face had scars she didn't remember, but his eyes were the same. Cold, mean. Walked up to his table. "I hear you're the guy to talk to about work," she said. Greg looked her up and down. "You're young." "I'm good," said. She sat down without being invited, confident, like someone who knew her worth. Greg studied her for a long moment, then he shrugged. "Maybe, what's your experience?" Told him the story she had prepared. Small jobs, guard work, 1 or 2 wet operations, nothing major. She was trying to build a reputation. Over the next few weeks became a regular at the gambling hall. She lost money on purpose at first, then started winning. Made herself useful. Ran small errands for Greg. Gained his trust slowly. Greg liked having someone young around, someone who listened to his stories. He started talking more, drinking more, getting comfortable. One night after too many drinks, Greg started talking about the old days. "I used to run with Cole," he said. "Best in the business." Kept her face neutral. "Cole, I've heard that name." "Course you have," Greg said proudly. "Taught me everything. We did jobs all over the sector." He leaned in close. "Dangerous jobs, important jobs." "Like what?" asked. She poured him another drink. Greg told her stories. Most of them were lies or exaggerations, but some were real. Listened to every word, memorized every detail. Finally, after weeks of building trust, Greg mentioned the Brooks job. He didn't use names, just called it a research outpost problem. "Clean operation," Greg said. "In and out, no witnesses except a kid, and let her live." He laughed. Always wondered about that, wasn't usually the sentimental type. His hands tightened on her glass, but her face stayed calm. Why'd he let her live? "Wasn't in the contract," Greg said simply. "Was professional like that, only did what he was paid for." He took another drink. "Besides, what's an 8-year-old kid gonna do? She probably doesn't even remember." Smiled, "Probably not." She kept Greg talking. Learned that the third man from that night had died 5 years ago. Some job gone wrong, now only was left. "Where's now?" asked casually. Greg got quiet. "Moves around, got paranoid in his old age. Some disease making him sick, needs special treatment." "Sounds rough," said. "Yeah," Greg said, "but he always comes back to Shadow Station, every 6 months for medical care, like clockwork." He tapped his nose. "Creatures of habit, all of us." Had what she needed. She stayed on Outpost 7 for another week to avoid suspicion. Then she quietly gathered evidence on Greg's past crimes. War crimes from some colony war years ago. Things he had done that made killing her parents look gentle. She left the evidence where colonial authorities would find it. Anonymous tip, clean and untraceable. 3 days after she left, she heard Greg had been arrested. He would spend the rest of his life in a colonial prison. Justice of a sort, but not enough. Set her course for Shadow Station. She had 3 months before his next medical visit, 3 months to prepare, to plan, to become someone he would never suspect. On the transport, called her. "I heard about Greg," she said. "He got what he deserved," said. And looked out at the stars rushing past. "Gets worse." Was quiet for a moment. "Please think about this. Once you start down this road, there's no coming back." "I started down this road 10 years ago," said. "In a burned outpost, standing in a corner. Shadow Station hung in space like a piece of old junk. It was huge, built during some war nobody remembered anymore. Now it belonged to criminals, smugglers, and people who didn't want to be found. No colonial law reached this far. No authority asked questions. Perfect for what needed to do." She rented a small apartment in the lower levels. The place was dirty and smelled bad, but it had what she needed. A computer terminal, a window overlooking the medical district, privacy. Spent her first week learning the station. She walked every level, memorized every exit, found the security cameras and their blind spots. Shadow Station was huge, but she mapped it all in her head. The medical district was in the central ring, clean and expensive. Rich criminals paid good money for doctors who didn't report gunshot wounds or ask about scars. Doctor was named Victor Lane. He specialized in degenerative diseases. Hacked into Dr. Lane's records. It took her 3 days. The security was good, but she was better. She found file buried under a false name. The disease was eating from the inside. His bones were turning brittle. His organs were slowly failing. Without treatment every 6 months, he would die in pain. With treatment, he could live another 10 years, maybe more. Read every detail, learned his treatment schedule, studied his medication list. Knowledge was power, and she gathered all the knowledge she could. Next, she built her cover. Amy Carter, information broker. She set up shop in one of the station's data markets, a small booth where people could buy and sell secrets. The first few weeks were slow. She sold cheap information. Station gossip, ship schedules, nothing important, just enough to build a reputation. Was patient. She had learned patience from her aunt, from 10 years of waiting. What was a few more weeks? She made contacts, learned who the power players were, who owed who hated who. Shadow Station was full of enemies pretending to be friends. She understood that language. One name kept coming up. Cole. He had enemies here, people he had betrayed, people he had hurt. Counted at least 5 different groups who wanted him dead. That was a problem. If someone killed before she could get to him, 10 years would be wasted. She needed to move fast once he arrived. Prepared carefully, she found a warehouse in the industrial sector. Empty, abandoned. The owner had died years ago and nobody claimed it. She rented it under a false company name, paid in untraceable credits. She spent 2 weeks making the warehouse perfect. Soundproofing on the walls, reinforced locks, no windows. She installed cameras covering every angle, set up a medical station with equipment stolen from supply ships. Everything she needed to keep someone alive for a long time. In the warehouse's main room, she placed one chair, heavy metal, bolted to the floor with restraints built in. She tested the restraints over and over. They would hold a strong man. They would definitely hold a sick one. Also prepared her weapons, not guns. She didn't plan to shoot. That would be too quick, too easy. She needed tools that would hurt but not kill. Knives, chemicals, medical instruments, things that caused pain with precision. She practiced on meat from the station market, learned exactly how much pressure to use, how deep to cut, how to cause maximum pain with minimum damage. Her hands stayed steady. She felt nothing while she worked. 3 months passed. Her reputation as Amy Carter grew. People came to her for information. She delivered what they wanted, accurate, reliable, professional. Word spread that she was good. Then ship appeared on the station's arrival schedule. Felt her heart beat faster. 10 years of planning came down to this. She checked everything one more time. The warehouse, her weapons, her cover identity, all perfect. Arrived on a small private ship. Watched from a distance as he walked slowly through the docking bay. He used a cane now. His face looked and tired. The disease was winning. Good. He checked into the same hotel he always used. The Blue Nova, expensive but discreet, had already bribed one of the hotel staff. She knew his room number, knew his schedule. For 3 days watched, he went to his medical appointments, ate alone in his room, went to his favorite bar at night, always alone, always careful. His paranoia had grown over the years. On the 4th night made her move. She walked into the bar liked, sat 3 seats away from him, ordered a drink, didn't look at him. Noticed her immediately. She felt his eyes on her, studying, assessing. She had planned for this, wore clothes that said professional. Moved like someone trained, made herself interesting. She ignored him for 20 minutes, let him wonder, let him get curious. Finally moved to sit beside her. I haven't seen you here before, he said. Glanced at him, her face showed nothing. I don't come here much. What's your business on Shadow Station? Asked. His voice was polite, but his eyes were sharp, dangerous. Information, said. I broker data, buy and sell secrets. She turned back to her drink, dismissive. Smiled slightly. Everyone needs good information. Shrugged, that's why I do well. She could see him thinking, weighing, deciding if she was a threat or an opportunity. She gave him nothing, just a bored professional having a drink. I might have use for your services, said carefully. Maybe, said. Depends what you need. I heard someone was asking about me, said. Wanted to know my schedule, my movements. I'd like to know who. Felt a chill of satisfaction. The false trail she had planted was working. She had paid 3 different people to ask subtle questions about, made it look like someone was hunting him. That kind of information costs, said. I pay well, said. Looked at him properly for the first time. Let her eyes show professional interest, nothing more. Give me 2 days, I'll see what I can find. They agreed on a price, exchanged contact codes, Left first walking slowly with his cane, waited 15 minutes before leaving. Let him think she was cautious, professional. Over the next week, fed carefully prepared lies. She told him a mercenary named Carl was hunting him, showed him fake evidence, false messages, made it real enough to scare him. His paranoia grew. He stopped going out much, stayed in his hotel, contacted his usual sources, but they all confirmed parts of story because she had planted information with them too. This guy is serious, told during their 5th meeting. He has connections, resources, you need to disappear for a while. Where? Asked. He looked tired, scared. I have a safe location, said. Warehouse in the industrial sector, off the grid, no cameras, no records, you could lay low there while I track down. Hesitated, his instincts were good, even weakened by disease and fear. Why would you help me? You're paying me, said simply, and if kills you I don't get paid, bad for business. It made sense. Mercenary logic, everything on Shadow Station ran on mercenary logic. Agreed. Gave him the warehouse address, told him to come alone, bring enough medication for 2 weeks, she would handle the rest. The night arrived, was waiting. The warehouse was dark except for one light in the center, walked in carefully, one hand on his weapon. Lock the door behind you, called from the shadows. Did. The heavy bolt clicked into place. Sit in the chair, said. I need to brief you on last known location. Walked to the chair, sat down, put his cane beside him. Stepped into the light, she held a small injector in her hand. First, a drink, I know the medication makes you thirsty. She handed him a bottle, took it, drank. The sedative in the water was tasteless, fast-acting, military grade. His eyes went wide as his muscles stopped responding. The bottle fell from his hand. He tried to stand but couldn't move. Moved quickly, secured the restraints around his wrists. His ankles, his chest, made sure they were tight, could barely move his head. What managed to say? His voice slurred. Stood in front of him, pulled back her hood, let him see her face clearly. Do you remember in Brooks? She asked quietly. Stared at her, confusion first, then recognition, then terror. No, he whispered. Yes, said. I'm Brooks. I was 8 years old when you murdered my parents. I watched from a metal cabinet while you shot them. I heard my mother beg for my life. I heard you tell me they died begging. Tried to speak. The sedative made it hard. For 10 years I've been planning this, said. Her voice was calm, cold. Learning, training, becoming someone who could find you, trap you, make you pay. She walked around the chair slowly. You told me to remember that they died begging. Well, I remember everything, every single detail. And now you're going to learn what it means to beg. His eyes showed pure fear now. He tried to pull against the restraints. They didn't move. Welcome to the last chapter of your life, said. It's going to be a long one. The warehouse door was locked. The walls were soundproof. Nobody knew was here. Nobody would come looking for weeks. Woke slowly. His head hurt. His mouth was dry. For a moment he forgot where he was. Then he tried to move and remembered everything. The restraints held him tight. He was still in the chair. Brooks sat across from him, watching. She looked calm, patient. That scared him more than anger would have. How long, said. His voice came out rough. 6 hours, said. I let you sleep. You'll need your strength. She stood and walked closer. Pulled against the restraints again. Nothing. The metal bit into his wrists. Let me go, said. I have money, lots of it. Name your price. Didn't answer. She picked up a tablet and turned it toward him. The screen showed a video. Recognized it immediately. The research outpost, 15 years ago. His own voice came from the speakers. Come out. This doesn't have to be difficult. The video showed everything. Brooks stepping forward with his hands up. Begging. The execution, all of it. Someone had recovered security footage thought was destroyed. Watch, said. Tried to look away. Grabbed his chin and held his head straight, made him watch. The video played all the way through, showed him searching the outpost, finding Young in the cabinet, telling her to face the wall. Showed him leaning down and whispering those final words. Your parents died begging. The video ended, set the tablet down. I recovered that footage 3 years ago, said. Took me 2 years to find it. The outpost computers were badly damaged, but data doesn't die easily. I rebuilt the files piece by piece. She sat back down. I've watched that video 1,000 times, every night before I sleep, every morning when I wake up. It's the last thing I see before I close my eyes. Felt cold, not from the temperature, from understanding. This girl had spent 10 years focused on one thing, him. Your parents started. They were just a job, nothing personal. Nothing personal, repeated softly. You murdered two good people who helped their community, who were planning to adopt orphan children, who loved their daughter, and it was nothing personal. She stood again. This time she walked to a table hadn't noticed. It was covered with tools, medical instruments, knives, things he recognized from interrogation work. I'm not going to kill you today, said, examining the tools. Or tomorrow or next week. I have time, lots of time. Tried another approach. Look, I understand you're angry, but revenge won't help. It won't bring them back. You're young. You have your whole life ahead. Laughed. The sound was wrong, empty. My aunt said the same thing. She tried to help me heal, tried to make me normal. She picked up a small knife. But I couldn't be normal, because every time I closed my eyes, I saw you, heard you, smelled the smoke from my burning home. She turned the knife over in her hands. So my aunt changed tactics. She taught me to channel it, to use it, to become something dangerous. Your aunt sounds smart, said carefully. She wouldn't want you to throw your life away on this. She knows where I am, said. She knows what I'm doing. She doesn't approve, but she understands. Walked back to him with the knife. Because you don't just murder someone's family and walk away, not from humans. We remember, we wait, we hunt. Had worked with humans before, fought against them. He knew what she said was true. Humans were terrifying when motivated. They never gave up, never forgot. He had just never been on the receiving end before. I'll start with your mind, said. Before your body, I want you to understand what you took from me. For the next 3 days, barely touched physically. Instead, she worked on breaking him mentally. She showed him files on her parents, every detail of their lives, their wedding photos, their research papers, letters they had written, community awards they had received. She made them real to him, made them human. She showed him footage of their funeral, her standing alone, 8 years old, while they lowered 2 caskets into the ground. She played recordings of herself screaming from nightmares as a child. Years of therapy sessions, her voice small and broken, talking about the man who killed her parents. Tried to block it out, tried to stay professional, detached, but was relentless. She forced him to see what he had done, not as a job, as murder, as destroying a family. They were going to adopt 3 children, said on the 3rd day. From a colony disaster, 3 kids who lost their parents. My mom and dad were going to give them a home. She showed him pictures of the children. They died in the colony system 2 years later. Nobody adopted them. They aged out of care and ended up on the streets. One died from drug addiction. One disappeared. One is in prison. Felt something he hadn't felt in years. Guilt, shame. He pushed it down, tried to remember this was just a job, just business. But didn't let him forget. She talked for hours about her parents, about the life they had planned, about the hole their death left. On the 4th day, his medication. His disease required daily treatment. Without it, the pain started slow, then built. Bone pain, deep and grinding. His organs began to ache. Please, said, the medication, I need it. Did my mother beg like this? Asked. Tell me exactly what she said. Closed his eyes. I don't remember. Hit a button on her tablet. His own voice filled the room from the security footage. Please don't, she's just a baby, she hasn't done anything. That's what she said, told him, and you shot her anyway. The pain got worse, hours passed. His body started shaking, sweat ran down his face. The disease ate at him from inside. The medication, he gasped. Beg, said, like they begged. Held out for another 2 hours. Then he broke. Please, I'm sorry, I'll do anything. Please give me the medication. Gave him half a dose, enough to dull the pain, not enough to stop it. You're going to tell me everything, said. Every job, every person you've killed, every crime, all of it. Talked, the pain made him weak, made him desperate. He confessed to things he had forgotten. Jobs from 20 years ago, people whose names he barely remembered. Recorded everything. Compiled evidence that would destroy what was left of his reputation. That would put him in prison for life if she chose to use it. But she didn't choose that. Prison was too easy. On the 6th day began the physical pain. She started small, pressure points, nerve clusters, places that hurt badly but left no permanent damage. She had studied human anatomy for years, knew exactly where to apply pressure, how long to hold, when to stop. Screamed, the soundproof walls absorbed it. Nobody heard, nobody came. Between sessions, talked to him, told him about her childhood after the murders, the nightmares, the fear, the years of feeling broken. I couldn't have friends, she said, because I didn't trust anyone, couldn't sleep without lights on, couldn't hear gunshots without having panic attacks. She showed him scars on her own arms. I hurt myself for years, thought I deserved the pain, thought maybe if I hurt enough they would come back. Wept not from physical pain, from understanding what he had created. This broken, dangerous young woman was his fault, his work. I'm sorry, he said. I'm truly sorry. Sorry doesn't mean anything, said. Sorry doesn't bring them back, doesn't give me my childhood, doesn't undo 10 years of nightmares. The days blurred together, was methodical, precise. She kept right at the edge, never letting him die, never letting him rest, just constant, grinding pain and psychological torture. She made him write apology letters to people he couldn't remember, made him watch videos of his victims' families, made him understand the full weight of his crimes. His mind started to crack. He saw his victims in the corners of the room, heard their voices, begged them for forgiveness. Watched it all with empty eyes. She felt nothing, no satisfaction, no joy, just the same emptiness she had carried for 10 years. On the 14th day was a shell, broken, barely conscious. He mumbled constantly, apologies, prayers, nonsense. Sat across from him and felt tired, so tired. This was supposed to make her feel better, supposed to fill the hole inside her, but the hole was still there, still empty, still aching. She had become the monster, just like maybe worse. Reached for her calm device. She needed to decide, keep going until died, or stop, choose something different. Before she could decide, alarms blared through the warehouse. Her security system, someone had found them. Pulled up the camera feeds, colonial authority ships surrounding the warehouse, armed teams moving in. She looked at what she had done to him, moved fast. She grabbed her tablet and wiped all the personal data. Left only his confessions, his crimes, evidence that would put him away forever. The warehouse door shook, heavy impacts, they were breaking through. Lifted his head slightly, his eyes were barely focused. They'll arrest you, he whispered. I know, said. She could run, the warehouse had a back exit. She had planned for this, had an escape route, a ship waiting. She could disappear into the outer colonies, live under a new name. But looking at broken and pathetic in the chair, felt something shift inside her. This wasn't who she wanted to be, this wasn't justice, it was just more violence, more pain. The door burst open, colonial authority troops rushed in, weapons ready. They wore full armor, moved like professionals. Hands up, the lead officer shouted, don't move. Raised her hands slowly, stepped away from, she didn't resist as they surrounded her. A man in a marshal's uniform walked in last. He was older, maybe 50, had hard eyes and a weathered face. The name on his jacket said Foster. Marshal Brandon Foster looked at first. His face showed no emotion at what he saw. Then he really looked at her. Brooks, he said quietly, we've been tracking you for 3 weeks. Said nothing, just kept her hands raised. Foster walked closer too, examined him without touching. What did you do to him? Nothing he didn't deserve, said. Her voice was flat, empty. Foster turned back to her. That's not how justice works. Justice, said. The word tasted wrong in her mouth. Justice is what let him walk free for 15 years. Justice is what let him brag about murdering my parents in bars. Justice is what failed. So you took it into your own hands, Foster said. Yes. Foster was quiet for a moment. He pulled out a tablet and showed it too. The screen displayed her file, everything she had done, all the evidence she had compiled on, every confession she had recorded. We've been building a case against Cole for 8 years, Foster said. War crimes, murder for hire, over 40 confirmed kills, but we could never get enough evidence. He was too careful, too professional. He looked at the tablet. Until you got him to confess to everything, recorded it all, compiled evidence we couldn't get in years of investigation. Felt confused. Then why stop me? Why not let me finish it? Foster's eyes hardened. Because we're not like them, we don't torture, we don't take revenge, we follow the law, even when the law is slow, even when it's frustrating. He gestured to his team. Take Cole into custody, medical team first, he needs treatment before transport. 2 medics moved in, started working on, he mumbled incoherently, didn't seem to know where he was anymore. Foster turned back to, "You kidnapped him, tortured him. That's against the law. I should arrest you right now." "I know," said. She didn't fight, didn't argue. She was tired of fighting. Foster studied her for a long moment. "How old are you?" 18. "And you've been planning this since you were 8 years old?" "Yes." Foster shook his head slowly. "The things we do to children in this galaxy." He looked sad, angry, not at something bigger. He made a decision, saw it in his eyes. "My team found Cole abandoned in this warehouse," Foster said clearly. "Victim of his own enemies. He has many enemies. It happens in places like Shadow Station." Stared at him. "What?" "You were never here," Foster said. "We have no record of you on Shadow Station. Your ship never docked. You don't exist." "Why?" asked. Foster looked at being loaded onto a medical stretcher. "Because that man destroyed your life, took everything from you, and somehow, despite that, you stopped. You didn't kill him, you could have, but you recorded evidence instead. You gave us everything we need to put him away forever." He met's eyes. "That shows character, shows you're not like him, not completely." Felt something break inside her, not painfully, more like a dam releasing pressure. She hadn't realized how much weight she had been carrying, how much anger, how much hate. "He killed my parents," she said. Her voice cracked slightly. "I know," Foster said gently. "I read the files. I'm sorry that happened to you. Sorry nobody caught him sooner." He gestured to the door. "Go home, go back to your aunt, try to live a normal life. Let us handle Cole." "What will happen to him?" asked. "He'll face trial for war crimes," Foster said. "Multiple colonies want him. The evidence you compiled guarantees conviction. He'll spend the rest of his life in a maximum security prison." He paused, "And his disease is advanced. Without proper treatment, which he won't get in prison, he has maybe 6 months. He'll die alone, in pain, forgotten." Thought about that, suffering in a cell, knowing he would never be free, never be forgiven. It wasn't the revenge she had planned, but maybe it was enough. "Thank you," she whispered. Foster nodded. "Don't thank me. I'm not doing you a favor. I'm choosing the law over my personal feelings. There's a difference." He walked toward the door, then stopped. "One more thing. If you ever do something like this again, I will arrest you. No mercy, no second chances, understand?" "Yes, sir," said. Foster and his team left, took with them. The warehouse fell silent. Stood alone in the empty room. The chair sat in the center, restraints hanging loose. Blood stains on the floor, evidence of what she had become. She pulled out her comm and called. Her aunt answered immediately. "Are you okay?" "It's over," said. "The colonial authority he's going to prison." Was quiet. "And you?" "I'm coming home." Heard her aunt crying softly. Thank God you're safe." Left Shadow Station that night. Her ship was small and fast. She set course for Haven's Edge, for home. The journey took 4 days, spent most of it sleeping, really sleeping. For the first time in years, she didn't have nightmares. When she arrived at Haven's Edge, was waiting at the spaceport. She pulled into a fierce hug, held her for a long time. "I was so scared," said, "so scared you wouldn't come back." "I almost didn't," admitted. They went to his apartment, drank coffee, talked about small things, the weather, the neighbors, normal things. Finally asked the question, "Did it help? Did you get what you needed?" Thought about it, really thought. "No," she said honestly. "It didn't fill the empty space, didn't bring them back, didn't make me feel better." "What did it do?" asked. "It taught me I don't want to be like him," said. "I became a monster to hunt a monster, and I hated it, hated what I was becoming." She looked at her hands. They looked normal, but she remembered what they had done. "I can't take it back, can't undo it, but I can choose to be different going forward." Took her hand. "That's all any of us can do, choose to be better than our worst moments." 3 weeks later, visited her parents' graves for the first time since she was 8 years old. The cemetery was quiet, peaceful. Her parents were buried under a tree like they had wanted. Sat on the grass between the 2 headstones, traced her fingers over their names. "I found him," she said quietly. "Cole, he's in prison now. He'll die there, alone, punished for what he did." The wind rustled through the trees. "I became someone you wouldn't recognize," continued. "Someone angry, violent, focused only on revenge. I'm sorry for that. Sorry I let him take more than just your lives. He almost took who I was too." She took a deep breath. "But I stopped. Before I went too far, before I became just like him, I hope that matters, I hope you understand. Stayed for an hour, then she stood and walked back to his car. Where to? Asked. I don't know, said. I spent 10 years planning revenge, now I don't know what to do. Then we figure it out together, said, one day at a time. 6 months later, received a message from Marshal Foster. It was short. Cole died in prison yesterday. Disease complications. He was alone, thought you should know, BF. Read the message 3 times, then deleted it. She was sitting in a coffee shop in Haven's Edge. The sun was shining. People walked by outside, normal people living normal lives. Had enrolled in university. She wasn't sure what she wanted to study yet. Maybe psychology, maybe social work, something to help people, something that built instead of destroyed. Had been right, revenge didn't heal wounds, didn't bring anyone back, but choosing to move forward to be better, that was something. It was a start. Looked down at her tablet. She had been writing. Not about revenge, about her parents, who they really were, the good they did. She was writing their story, so people would remember them for their lives, not their deaths. The coffee shop door opened. A young girl walked in with her mother, maybe 8 years old. They laughed about something, ordered hot chocolate. Watched them and felt something she hadn't felt in years. Hope, just a little, but enough. Cole was dead. Her parents were gone. Nothing would change that. But Brooks was still alive, still had a future, still had choices to make. And for the first time since she was 8 years old, standing in that corner listening to gunshots, chose something other than revenge. She chose to live. The galaxy had learned a hard lesson through actions. Humans remember, humans hunt. When you hurt a human's family, you don't just make an enemy, you create something relentless, something patient, something that will find you eventually. But the galaxy also learned something else. Humans can choose mercy, can choose justice over revenge, can step back from the edge even when every part of them wants to jump. Brooks had been 8 years old when Cole destroyed her life. She had spent 10 years becoming a hunter, a weapon, a force of vengeance. But she was 18 now, and she chose to become something else. Something better. Something human. For the first time in 10 years, Brooks didn't know what to do. Had all the time in the world. Gee, to my parents die. Your parents loved you, said softly. They wouldn't want this for you. My parents are dead, said. Her voice was flat, empty. Because a man named Cole killed them and bragged about it in bars. That's all that matters now. She ended the call. Shadow Station was 3 weeks away. Soon, he checked his messages before sleeping. There was one new message. No sender identification, just 3 words and 2 letters. Payment for old debts comes due, KB. Stared at the message for a long time. KB, those initials meant nothing to him. He deleted the message and went to sleep. But the uneasy feeling followed him into his dreams.